Alright guys, so last time we talked about the French Revolution. If you remember, we had the monarchy with Louis XVI, Louis XIV's grandson, with Marie Antoinette. The monarchy failed. That created the National Convention, led by Robespierre, the Reign of Terror. That didn't really work out, and then they're going to create this third government known as the Directory, led by this guy named Napoleon Bonaparte. So we're going to talk about him today. Alright, let's go. Okay, so in 1799, this French military general named Napoleon Bonaparte is going to lead this coup and seizes power in France. And when I say coup, a coup is basically when someone goes and breaks up the government. It's like a mutiny, basically. They don't agree with the government, so they themselves take over. And as Emperor of France, so Napoleon's going to, first of all, name himself Emperor. He's going to introduce these needed reforms. He's going to defeat foreign armies, and he's going to conquer this massive French empire, really start to expand the size of France. So from 1789 to 1804, they experienced that revolutionary change from France from an absolute monarchy to that republic with the National Convention to this directory, which is going to be an empire. And the success of the American Revolution and the Enlightenment ideas, such as individual liberty, consent of the governed, all those different ideas we've been talking about, are going to really lead to people to question their rule by absolute monarchs. So the peasants and the bourgeoisie of the Third Estate, again, continued to believe that Louis XVI's tax system was unfair, and at the Estates General, if you'll remember, Louis XVI raised taxes to try to solve the financial crisis, and again, you can't continue with taxing the Third Estate. They've already been taxed enough, so they're going to get upset and rebel, right? And they're going to form that National Assembly, demand the king agree to eliminate monarchy. They're going to storm the Bastille, and that's going to begin the French Revolution, and then they're going to create the National Convention and that Reign of Terror, okay? So once all that's done, National Convention is over, we start this directory with Napoleon Bonaparte. So by the late 1790s, France is going to be in complete chaos. Again, they've gone through 3 governments now in like 10 years. It's just a mess. The Republic failed to solve problems. And these different foreign nations are going to be at war with France because they're trying to restore that absolute monarchy. So Bonaparte is going to seize power in 1799, and he's going to create this European empire. So after Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were executed during the French Revolution, a lot of these European nations are going to keep attacking France to, again, try to keep those revolutionary ideas from spreading. So Napoleon is this guy who's this military officer who successfully defended France. He's going to become this military hero through these different battles. But the French Republic's going to lose the confidence of the citizens because, again, the citizens are like, we've had all these different governments. We don't really know who to trust. Like, nothing seems to work in this country. It's just mad chaos. Like, what are we supposed to do? So in 1799, Napoleon stages that coup or that overthrow of the French Republic, and he's going to assume the power of dictator because, you know, dictators always work out really well. So by 1800, the French people are going to vote in favor of the new constitution that makes Napoleon the consul or emperor of France. So during Napoleon's reign, he's going to make a lot of different reforms to improve the government, economy, and lives for French citizens. So he does some good things. To fix the French economy, he's going to introduce this fair tax system and create this Bank of France that's going to regulate the money supply. He's also going to create a merit-based system for bureaucrats in the government. He's going to create public schools to include students of all backgrounds, who's very accepting of all people, right? And he's going to include this comprehensive set of laws, and this is going to be his law code, known as the Napoleonic Code, which is going to provide order, it's going to provide freedom of religion, and it's going to eliminate privileges by the estates. So that's pretty good, right? So in 1804, Napoleon's going to order this election. And this is where it's going to start to be not so great. So he's going to have an election, and the French people are going to end up voting Napoleon in as emperor for life, which sounds a little bit like a monarch, doesn't it? Like, they're voting, but they voted him in for life. So if they don't like him, he can't leave. He's been voted for life. Okay, so Napoleon has been voted in as emperor for life. And not only that, Napoleon really likes having this power. It's kind of similar to an absolute monarch in a way. And he's going to start to really, really want more power, more land. And so he's going to want control of the global empire. And he's going to want to take over areas like North America and Europe. Very, very similar to Hitler, which I've got a lovely picture side by side of Napoleon versus Hitler here. That idea of world domination was something that he was really after. Hitler actually took some of the ideas from Napoleon. There's a lot of similarities between the two. The only reason, though, that this didn't really work out is a few things. So, the revolution in Haiti convinced Napoleon to abandon North America because he said, okay, you know what, I want world domination, but, like, Haiti's off doing their own thing. I don't even know what's going on over there. That would take me 6 months to even visit. I don't have time for them. Like, I'm just going to let them go and do their revolution, and then they can just have their own thing. I don't really care. So he's going to give up that in North America because, again, these revolutions are already starting to spring up all over North and South America, and he's just like, I can try Europe. I don't need North America. I'm just going to give up on them. And so in 1803, since he's just kind of given up on North America, he's going to sell the territory that he owned in North America, in Louisiana, everything basically west of the Mississippi River, to the United States for $15 million. And this thing known as the Louisiana Purchase. Again, you've talked about it before, but you never really learned about why France just gave away all this land to the United States. So again, part of it's just Napoleon just was like, I'd rather focus on taking over Europe. The United States, it's just not my big concern here. So he gives the Louisiana Purchase to the United States, and that purchase is going to actually double the size of the United States. So again, you can look at this map, but all of this area, that's how they got it, was because Napoleon literally just gave it up for $15 million. But he gave it up. So from 1807 to 1812, Napoleon's going to rule over the largest European empire since the Romans. He's just going to continue taking over land, kind of similar to Hitler, who just kept taking over land and expanding the size of Germany. Napoleon's going to do the same thing with France. And during this thing where he's taking power, it's going to be called the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon's going to show this genius by defeating countries like Austria and Prussia they'd been in war with, and then conquering Spain, Italy, and most of Central Europe. Again, very similar. If you were to look at a map of the conquest of Napoleon and the conquest of Hitler, it's almost identical how much land, where exactly they conquered. It's almost creepy a little bit. So during his rule over Europe, Napoleon made a lot of really horrible decisions. So the one nation, very similar to Hitler during World War II, the one nation he could not defeat was England. He also ordered this blockade known as the Continental System, where he cut off all trade with England because he said, you know what, I can't take them over, and you know what, I'm just going to create a blockade. Maybe if I stop trade from them, they won't be as strong. They'll get weaker because they're not trading with Europe, and they'll fall apart. Maybe then I can take over. But it was a failure. Didn't work at all, and it really hurt the French economy even more than England's economy because England was still very strong and pretty self-sufficient. So by 1812, Napoleon's going to make his greatest mistake, and he's going to actually try to invade Russia. But here's the problem. You should not. This is like, if any of you decide to take over the world, first of all, don't take over the world. But if you do not invade Russia in December. That is just poor mistakes. That's just common sense. Because Russia is very, very cold. And this harsh winter and Russia's scorched earth is going to really devastate the French army because it's cold and the Russians know how to handle the harsh winter. The French do not know how to handle the harsh winter, and it's going to force Napoleon's retreat. Now, one thing I also find interesting about this, there's another major world leader who also tried to conquer Russia, and that's part of how he started to lose the European front, and that was Hitler. Hitler tried to invade Russia in the winter. Both guys, very dumb because you tried to invade Russia in the coldest time of the year. And both of those people, the reason that their empire started to fall is because of this dumb mistake. So by 1814, France is going to start to get really weak because of this. And so the French army is going to eventually be defeated, and Napoleon is actually going to surrender, and he's forced to give up his throne, and he's exiled to the island of Elba. So the French monarchy is actually restored, so a king is back. So those of you who've watched Les Mis is actually not a part of the French Revolution. It comes after the French Revolution, where they went through this whole process where they had a king, and then now they've got another king, and there's going to start to be revolts after that. So Les Mis actually comes after the French Revolution, fun fact. It'd be probably around this time, I would assume. So the French monarchy is going to be restored, but the new King Louis the 17th, is really unpopular. And so in 1815, surprisingly enough, Napoleon actually escapes and regains the throne, and Napoleon's put back in charge, because this guy just doesn't know how to die. So only 100 days after Napoleon's return, he's going to build this new army. He's going to start conquering again, go back to exactly what he was doing before. But unfortunately, he's going to be defeated by a European coalition at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Make sure that you remember this Battle of Waterloo in 1815. I know we don't have a lot of dates we need to remember, but remember Waterloo. Waterloo is very important. There's an ABBA song that has Waterloo in it, so I don't know, maybe that'll help you. That always helped me remember this. I might play it in class. I don't know. So after his defeat, Napoleon's exiled yet again, but this time they really wanted to get him far away so he couldn't try to escape. So they exile him to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he finally does die after 6 years. But like they were like, okay, we tried to exile you one time, you escaped. Now we're gonna take you as far away as humanly possible. So they basically put him on the other side of the world in a tiny island, and he does eventually die. So some of his impacts. So he did create reforms that ended the financial crisis in France, as well as the unequal class system with those 3 estates. He also made public schools, and he created that Napoleonic law code. His massive empire brought a lot of glory to the French people as well. But at the same time, like his rise as emperor ended the enlightened ideas of democracy, and the fall of the empire led to a conflict between the rule of strong monarchs and government. So that idea of, again, separation between the person in charge and the government. So the era after Napoleon was this big conflict between conservative, liberal, radical forces again, and this might also be where Les Mis might have taken place. You know, the timeline's not exactly clear here, but they had a lot of issues between these 3 different groups. So you have the conservatives, who were usually the wealthy landowners and the nobles, who traditionally supported those traditional monarchs of the past. Then you had the liberals, who were usually from the middle class, the bourgeoisie, who supported Enlightenment ideas like limited monarchies and voting rights for educated landowners. And then you had the radicals, and the radicals would have been like the people in Les Mis who were fighting. They were usually from the lower classes that supported extending democracy to all citizens and giving everyone freedom. So Europe in 1812, at the height of Napoleon, was when Napoleon was the emperor of France, as well as Norway, Denmark, Prussia, Spain, Warsaw, the Rhine, so Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and Austria. And this map really shows what Napoleon's reign would have been like at his extent of power. And Napoleon, when he was defeated in 1815, these leaders are going to meet at this thing known as the Congress of Vienna, make sure you know that, to restore this peace and bring stability back into Europe. And they're going to end up making those countries their own separate things away from what Napoleon had. But that's all I have for you guys for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.